Welcome everyone to the City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee meeting of the 1st of December. I declare this meeting open at 9 a.m. and I'd like to begin today's meeting by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet, their elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to wish a big Merry Christmas to everybody because it's December, and happy birthday to Mr Mayor. He's the ripe young age of 42. Does he look good for a 42-year-old? I'd like to advise meeting attendees that this meeting is being audio recorded. I note that Councillors Karansky and Bradley have submitted leaves of absences due to their attendance at committal hearings. Do any other councillors have any other leaves of absence to declare? No? There being none, I now move that Councillors Karansky and Bradley be granted leave of absence in accordance with section 5.3C3 of the Local Government and Committee Meeting Code. Is there a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Stemp. All in favour, please raise your hand. That is carried unanimously. Excellent. We'll now move straight into the reports. First up, we've got the Innovation and City Transformation reports, and I have Dr. Scott Burke and Ms. Carmen Panisi up the front with me for item 4.1, the update on the new advocacy strategy. Before I move into discussions, do any councillors have any conflicts of interest they'd like to declare? There being none, take it away, Carmen.
Through the Chair, the purpose of this report is to seek in principle endorsement of the priority advocacy projects for the purpose of preparing the draft advocacy strategy. The new strategy will be our roadmap for what we want to achieve in the next 3 years and where to focus our advocacy efforts on those big ticket projects that are beyond the financial responsibility of Council to deliver, and those state and federal government-led projects as well. The new advocacy strategy will require a level of flexibility in the future, so as part of the drafting of the strategy in the next few months, we will also consider processes for undertaking action planning, reviews of the strategy, reporting against progress and achievements, and the process for reviewing and updating and monitoring the master list of advocacy projects.
Do you have any questions, councillors? Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I just want to make some comments. As you know, I've been I've been fairly critical of advocacy over the past, but I think we've certainly changed direction somewhat in that advocacy is more about now managing the city on behalf of everyone in the city. I mean, state and federal, obviously they have a duty to perform, but we have a role in managing the city overall. We're in a position where we can look after our residents. And I'll give you a good example of that, and that's the freight train issues that we're having. Advocacy recently sent out 8,000 letters advising residents that there's a consultation program happening right now about the effects that the freight train will have on residents. And this is the management part of council that we need to do. We need to look after our residents, obviously in a council role, but also making sure that state and federal decisions don't affect our residents adversely. So I think the advocacy has really turned the corner, and I'm really right behind the advocacy program. I think this program here that I'm looking at, I think shows a lot of promise. Obviously, we've got to adopt this and see how it goes, but so far so good.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Any further questions? No? Would someone like to move the report for me? Thank you, Mr Mayor. Would someone like to second? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. All those in favour, please raise your hand. And that is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. See, so easy, Carmen. It's a good start to a Tuesday morning. Now we'll move into item 4.2, which is the Local Roads and Community Infrastructure Program for 2021-22. Before I open discussion, do any councillors have any conflicts of interest they'd like to declare on this matter? There being none, I note that item 4.2 is confidential. It is confidential because it is considered necessary to take the discussion of this report into a closed session, as the confidential attachments contain information regarding projects that are funded at the discretion of Commonwealth and local governments' budgets. Do any councillors wish to move in a closed session for this item? Can someone please, thank you, Councillor Lane. Would someone like to second? Thank you, Councillor Stemp. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is carried unanimously. We moved into confidential under, I'm sure there's a section number I was meant to read out, but it's not in the script. We've moved into confidential under section 2754J3. Thank you, councillors. We'll now ask that the gallery be emptied of members of the public so we can move into closed session, and the recording will be turned off until we reopen. Councillors, we have an amended recommendation on the board that I will read out for the benefit of the recording. 1, that council endorse the following eligible projects listed in table 1 or 2 in the confidential report of the Director of Innovation and City Transformation dated 1 December 2020, totalling up to council's allocation of $11,113,967 for submission under the Local Road and Community Infrastructure Program for consideration by the Department of Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development and Communications. A, Rosier Park Stage 1, totalling $9 million. B, Albert Street Station Road, Logan River off-ramp intersection Bethania, totalling $900,000 with a further $100,000 contribution from the Local Infrastructure Program. C, Noya Park Car Park, Mount Warren Park, totalling $113,967 with a further $66,033 from the Local Infrastructure Program. And D, Logan Village Green upgrade to the drainage and lighting in line with the Logan Village Green Master Plan, totalling $1.1 million with a further $100,000 from the Local Infrastructure Program. 2, that upon 1 December 2021, the Corporate Government Manager be requested to place a confidential report of the Director of ICT dated 1 December 2020 and associated attachments into the public record. Can I please have someone to move this motion?
John, do we need another zero on the Logan Village Green one?
We do need another zero on the Logan Village Green one. Excellent catch, Councillor Stemp. That is why you're on the big bucks. While that small amendment is being made, I'll ask for someone to move the motion. Thank you, Councillor Power, seconded by Councillor Herremeier. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much, councillors.
Well done, councillors.
Woo!
No blood on the floor.
It still needs the zero.
The zero will be done.
Okay.
It is a small amendment they can make.
There you go.
Move through.
That's why she's the accountant.
That is right. Councillors, we'll now move on to general business. Dr. Scott, do you have any general business for us?
I do not, Mr Deputy Mayor.
And councillors, do you have any general business for Dr. Scott or for Carmen? No? Thank you very much. We'll now move on to item 5.1, which is a report for the Infrastructure Charges Resolution 9. I'll call the Economic Development Strategy Manager, David Radich, and the Strategy and Sustainability Director, David Hanson, to the front to speak to their report. Before we move into discussion, do any councillors have any conflicts of interest they'd like to declare on this matter? Excellent. There being none, I'll let Dave speak to his report.
Through the chair, the Infrastructure Charges Resolution 9 is our mechanism to collect infrastructure charges. It's our policy which relates to how we collect, what we collect for, what types of MCUs and what we don't collect infrastructure charges for. We generally update the Infrastructure Charges Resolution annually. This is the case here. So what we have in front of council is some changes to the Infrastructure Charges Resolution, and the version that we're calling it is version 9. So the current version is version 8. There's a series of operational matters that we wanted to amend as part of this resolution. The report talks to some of those aspects. Of interest to the councillors may be that we are now increasing the charge for our auxiliary unit in the city. I believe it's currently 50% of a dual occupancy. We're raising it to 75% of a dual occupancy, just to capture the actual demand that those types of developments are putting on council's trunk network. So overall, we're trying to simplify the charging resolution, and through this adopted infrastructure charges resolution, we believe we'll be able to collect a slightly larger amount annually of about $1 million, which will help council deliver trunk infrastructure to its growing community. The process to have a adopted infrastructure charges resolution adopted is to have the entire document resolved by council. So that's why the background paper is the entire document. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dave. Do I have any questions from councillors? I have one for you, Dave. On page 60 of the report, which is item 8.21, can you explain what the incentive for an existing lawful building with an existing lawful use means?
So through the chair, we have a policy position where if you're in a centre zone and you are say a small warehouse and you are wanting to change the use to, for example, a restaurant, it relates to if you're not increasing the GFA, you don't need to pay an infrastructure charge because we don't think there's going to be additional charge on the network. But what we've come across is there's situations where there's development applications that haven't been approved, and in that case, we shouldn't be allowing them to get that $50,000 discount.
Okay. Thank you. No further questions, councillors? Can I have someone move the report, please? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Seconded by Councillor Stemp. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is carried unanimously. We'll now move on to item 5.2, which is a confidential item in relation to the Investment Attraction Incentive Fund. Before I move into confidential, do any councillors have any conflicts of interest they'd like to declare on this matter? There being none, I note that 5.2 has confidential attachment, and it is considered necessary to take the discussion of this report into a closed session as the attachment contains information about budget allocations which are commercial in confidence. Councillors, if you have no questions, you do not have to go into confidential. Do any councillors wish to move into confidential session? There being none, I take that we're happy with the report and willing to move it. Would any councillors like to move the report? Thank you, Councillor Power. Seconded by Councillor Stemp. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is carried unanimously. Such a good report, no one had any questions, Dave. Well done. The next item is another confidential report. It's 5.3, Slacks Creek Greenlink Stage 2, Moss Street to Park Road, and 5.4, Interim Amendment for Local Government Infrastructure Plan, LGIP version 1.2. Before I move into confidential, do any councillors have any conflicts of interest on either of these items? No? Councillors, if you do not have any questions, you do not need to move into confidential. I will note that item 5.3 is confidential because it's considered necessary to take the discussion of this report into a closed session as there is information contained in the report and background paper that relates to council's budget. And item 4 is considered confidential because the discussion of this report into closed session as the report contains information into council's future budget as well. Do any councillors wish to move into confidential, or are you happy with the reports as they stand? As no one is willing to move into confidential, are you happy to take the vote on item 5.3? Would someone like to move that report? Thank you, Councillor Russell. Seconded by Councillor Power. Can I please see a show of hands for those in favour of the report? That is carried unanimously. And item 5.4, does anyone wish to move into confidential on this item? No? Would someone like to move the report, please? Thank you, Councillor Power. Seconded by Councillor Hall. All those in favour? That is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. This is how you get a committee moving. There's no further reports for the Economic Development Strategy Manager. Do you have any general business for us, Dave?
Through the chair, no.
Councillors, do you have any general business for the manager? No? Then I'll let you go, Dave. Great work. Next we have item 6.1, which is the Climate Change Resilience Policy and Draft Strategy. Before I move into discussion, do any councillors have any conflicts of interest they'd like to declare? There being none, I now refer to the Health, Environment and Waste Manager, Mike Lasnikar, to speak to his report.
Thanks, Mr Chairman. Morning, councillors. Logan City Council is a participant in the Queensland Climate Resilience Council's program, which is administered by the LJQ and funded through the Queensland Government. The intent of the QCRC program is to support local government to plan for and respond to challenges and opportunities arising from climate change. Through the program, an independent climate change governance assessment was undertaken, looking at council strategies, plans and policies to identify current strengths and opportunities. The results of this assessment were presented to council in 2019. Whilst the assessment revealed that Logan City Council was notably in the top 20% of Queensland councils in terms of overall ratings, it did also identify opportunities to enhance council's climate resilience across several areas of governance, including financial management, risk, corporate planning, asset management, disaster management, adaptation and policy. In response to the assessment findings, council resolved at the time that a draft climate resilience strategy be prepared. Today's report presents that draft strategy and a supporting climate change resilience policy. These documents articulate council's commitment and vision in doing what it can to manage, reduce and adapt to the risks of a changing climate in Logan City. The outcomes and actions identified in the draft policy, strategy, provide the organisational roadmap that will improve our climate change governance and will establish Logan City Council as a leader in climate change resilience planning. The documents support Council's green and renewable priority area and will address the growing requirements and expectations of the community, as well as that of financial, insurance and regulatory agencies in relation to climate-related risk management. This is a whole of council strategy, which has been developed through extensive internal consultation. The report recommends that the draft strategy now be released for public consultation to enable council to hear from the community and other stakeholders to inform the final document.
Thank you, Michael. I have a question from Councillor Power. Mr Mayor.
It's not so much a question, Mr Chair. We have to seem to be doing our bit, and this policy certainly will set us in that right direction. There are a lot of residents who want to see us progress this. I know that when we do media, these type of stories that come out of this are very well basically the city comes together and says, well done, Logan City Council. But it's, we talk about the big picture and we might not be able to control the big picture, but I think we need to take management over our own, the smaller picture. It's not just about the environment, it's also about saving money. It's also about being up to scratch with the latest technology, and it's creating opportunities. And I'll take obviously solar power. Many years ago, it wasn't that advantageous to take solar panels up because of their costs. Those costs have dwindled right down, and the performance of the new solar panels, you'd be crazy not to, given the cost of the alternatives. So this is a great report. It's heading in the right direction. I think we can all get behind it, and I think it's a great indication where council's going.
Thank you, Mayor Power. Any further councillors with comments or questions? If not, would someone like to move the report? Thank you, Councillor Stem. Seconded by Councillor Power. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is carried unanimously, noting that Councillor Wilcox is returning to her seat while voting. Next, we have item 6.2, which is the Conservation Incentives Program Policy Review. Before I move into discussion, do any councillors have any conflicts of interest they'd like to declare on this item? There being none, I'll hand over to Michael so he can speak to his report.
Thanks, Mr Chairman. Councillors would be familiar with Council's Conservation Incentives Program, through which Council offers partnerships with private property owners to support environmental restoration and conservation on their properties. The flagship offering under that program is Land for Wildlife, and there's also a suite of other partnerships available through that provide various levels of support and commitment, such as habitat connections and voluntary conservation agreements. Council's Environment team has recently reviewed the current policy following feedback from the community and participants. There were two key pieces of feedback received, and they were that the name of the program should be updated to better reflect the environmental and conservation nature of the partnership program, and that there is a demand from owners of suburban properties for access to a program to assist them in making their backyards wildlife friendly, and that the programs should therefore not be restricted to just those programs that fall within a biodiversity or waterway corridor. In response to the community feedback, this report proposes an update to the policy and procedure to accommodate the following changes. Firstly, a name change for the program from Conservation Incentives Program to the Environmental Conservation Partnerships, and secondly, an extension of the eligibility criteria for the Habitat Connections Partnership to include all properties, therefore meeting the demand from suburban property owners and assisting with supporting habitat and wildlife in suburban backyards. Finally, Council support is also being sought to add a service enhancement to the future budgets register funded by the Environmental Levy for additional resourcing to support the high level of demand and growth in the program. With membership increasing from 290 to nearly 500 in the last 2 years, a service enhancement will ensure that we can meet the growing demand and provide a high level of service to the community.
Thank you, Michael. Are there any questions from councillors? I guess the only real question is, would a conservation incentives program policy by any other name smell as sweet? No? Not a good joke? Okay. Can I have someone move the report, please? Thank you, Councillor Hall, who actually laughed at my joke. Seconded by Councillor Wilcox. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is carried unanimously. So the answer is yes, it does smell as sweet.
Yes, even sweeter.
The next two items, councillors, are confidential reports. It's item 6.3, the Southside Brisbane School Immunisation Service Provider Opportunity, and 6.4, the Waste Vouchers Policy Review. I note that item 6.3 is considered confidential and it is considered necessary to take the discussion of this report into a closed session, as the confidential attachments contain information relating to proposed contract between Logan City Council and Metro South Public Health Unit and the council's budget. 6.4 is considered necessary to take the discussion of this report into a closed session, as the options presented regarding waste voucher distribution has an impact on council's budget. Do any councillors wish to move into closed session to discuss these items, noting that if you do not wish to discuss them, you do not need to go into closed session? Ooh. You've got to go in for one of them because they've got options, surely. Thank you, Councillor Stemp. Can I have someone second that? Thank you, Councillor Hall. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is carried unanimously, and we'll go into closed session as per this, with the reasons outlined for items 6.3 and 6.4 under section, stand by while I bring it up, (254J3C) of the Local Government Regulation for both reports. If members of the gallery could please leave now, we'll move into closed session. Members of the gallery have returned. Councillors, you have a recommendation on the board that the distribution of waste vouchers to ratepayers of residential properties continue in 2021-2022 as detailed in option 1 of the confidential report of the Health, Environment and Waste Manager dated 1 December, that the existing policy titled Management of Waste Disposal Vouchers is attached to the report of the Health, Environment and Waste Manager dated December 1 be repealed. Be repealed? Does the old one need to be repealed?
That's right, Mr. Chairman. Just on that note, we've updated the policy to the new corporate format.
Excellent.
And that supports option 1.
Fantastic. That the proposed new policy titled Waste Vouchers is attached to the report of the HUE Manager dated December 1 be adopted, and that the proposed new Waste Vouchers procedure as attached to the report of the Health, Environment and Waste Manager dated December 1 be endorsed, and that the Corporate Governance Manager be requested to update Council's policy registers in accordance with clauses 2, 3 and 4 above. And 6, that upon the adoption of the 2021-2022 budget, that the Corporate Governance Manager be requested to place the confidential report of the HUE Manager dated 1 December and associated attachments into the public records. Can someone please move this recommendation for me? Thank you, Councillor Murphy. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Russell. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is carried by Councillors Power, Lane, Russell, Fraser, Herremeyer, Bannon, Stemp, Wilcox and Murphy, with Councillor Raven and Councillor Hall against?
Yes.
Thank you. Councillors, that brings me to the end of the Health, Environment and Waste Managers reports. I believe, do you have any GB for us?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Michael? Wait, I've got something else. Someone's waving their hands at me.
Did we do 6.3? John, we do 6.3.
Oh, sorry, I haven't done 6.3 yet. You're correct. Thank you. That was 6.4. We'll get item 6.3 up for the recommendation, which is as per the report for the Southside Brisbane School Immunisation Service Provider Opportunity. Can someone please move this report? Thank you, Councillor Power, seconded by Councillor Murphy. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Now we've finished the health, environment, and waste.
Mr. Chair,
Yep.
I voted against.
Oh, my apologies, Councillor Herrenmeyer.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to change my position to, what's the one year in the middle?
Hey, abstain.
Abstain? That's it.
But noting for the record that Councillor Herrenmeyer has voted against item 6.3 and Councillor Hall has abstained from item 6.3 with all other councillors supporting. General business. Michael, do you have any general business for us?
No, Mr. Chairman.
I believe that Councillor Wilcox has general business for you. Councillor Wilcox, if you'd like to speak to it, please.
I do. I recently had a request or query, you could say, from a resident regarding a rebate scheme that Brisbane City Council actually offers, but we actually don't. Brisbane City Council actually offer rebates to people who invest in environmentally friendly systems such as worm farms or compost. Specifically for dog waste, but for your food waste and all that sort of things as well. So they do composting or worm farming, and they say it's a fantastic way to reduce your household food waste going into landfill. Now, I know that we have the green bin option on the cards as well, but hoping or thinking that this might be possible as well. So Brisbane City Council allows residents to purchase an organic recycling system to make it easier with composting. And the program provides eligible Brisbane residents a rebate of up to $70 off the purchase of composting equipment. And because we don't seem to have anything, this resident asked about worm farms specifically because he has his dog breeder's licence and has quite a few dogs and that sort of thing and is quite interested in having a worming farm. So I am requesting that the Health, Environment and Waste Manager be requested to submit a report to the future City Planning, Economic Development and Environment Committee regarding a compost bin and worm farm rebate scheme for Council's consideration.
Thank you, Councillor Wilcox. Do any councillors have any questions for this general business item? Would someone like to second the item? Thank you, Councillor Herrenmeyer. All those in favour to receive this report to a future committee round, please raise your hand. That is carried unanimously. Thank you very much. You can go back to your resident and tell them you had a win.
Councillor Bannon was not here.
Oh, noting that Councillor Bannon was absent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There are no further reports for the committee councillors. I do have the Development Assessment Manager in the room. Does anyone have any general business for Stephen Ball? Stephen, do you have anything for us? No? And the Director? Excellent. Thank you very much for your time today, councillors. The meeting is closed at 10:56 a.m. The City Infrastructure Committee meeting will begin at 11:01. No, 11:06. Thank you.